That entire commercial was created with AI. And this time, I wanted to make the process much simpler. Instead of generating every shot one by one, I started with a simple idea, built the characters and references, created a visual storyboard, and combined everything into one master prompt. Then I gave it to Google Flow's agent mode and let it handle the shots. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I built the commercial from scratch. I've also put all the prompts and useful resources in the pinned comment, so you can follow along and try the workflow yourself. And if anything isn't clear, just drop your question in the comments. I'll answer as I can. Let's get started. I wanted to make a headphone commercial, but I didn't want to create another generic product ad that just shows someone wearing headphones and enjoying music. So I came up with a simple idea. We follow a young man through a chaotic morning as he rushes to work wearing a pair of high-quality headphones that completely changes his experience of the day. The fun part comes when he arrives at work. His boss is furious with him, but instead of arguing, he simply puts the headphones on his boss, and suddenly, everything changes. The boss starts vibing, the tension disappears, the two of them end up dancing together. The concept is simple, visual, and most importantly, easy to execute with AI. We only need one main character, one supporting character, and a few straightforward locations.
Now that I have the concept, I need to turn it into a short commercial that actually works on screen. So I'm taking the idea into ChatGPT and asking it to develop a concise advertising script, with the story told visually rather than through heavy dialogue. I want the script to have a clear progression: the rushed morning, the commute, the arrival at work, the confrontation with the boss, and finally the unexpected transformation when the boss puts on the headphones. I'm also making sure the headphones remain the hero of the commercial. They shouldn't just be a prop in the story. The product needs to be naturally integrated into the action and clearly remembered by the viewer. Once the script is working, we can move on to creating the visual references that will keep everything consistent throughout the commercial. With the script finished, the next step is creating the visual assets that will keep the commercial consistent. First, I'm creating a detailed character profile for our main character. I want his appearance, clothing, hairstyle, and overall look to stay consistent from the bedroom, to the bus, to the office. I'll do the same for the boss, but keep the character design simple since he only appears later in the story. I also need a clean reference for the headphones themselves. Since we're selling the product, the headphones need to maintain the same shape, materials, proportions, and overall design throughout the commercial. These references will become the visual foundation for the entire project. Once they're ready, we can start building the locations around them. Now that the characters and product are locked in, I need to create the environments where the commercial will take place. For this story, I'm keeping the locations simple: a bedroom, a kitchen, a city bus, a street, and an office. I don't need complicated environments because the focus should stay on the character and, most importantly, the headphones. I'm creating clean reference images for these locations, so Google Flow has a consistent visual direction for the entire commercial. The lighting, color palette, architecture, and overall cinematic style should feel like they belong to the same world. At this point, we have the script, our characters, the headphones, and the locations. Now we can finally start planning exactly how the commercial will look. So instead of asking ChatGPT to write individual video prompts, I'm asking it to turn the script into a storyboard. First, it breaks the commercial into individual scenes and creates a written shot list explaining what's happening in each one. Once that's ready, I ask it to create a visual storyboard using the script, the characters, the headphones, and the locations we've already prepared. And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts of the workflow, because this isn't just another AI-generated image. Every important shot is already planned out: the framing, the camera angles, the character positions, and the overall flow of the story. Now we have a visual blueprint for the entire commercial, and we haven't generated a single video shot yet. Before we move into Google Flow, there's one last thing I need: the master prompt. I'm asking ChatGPT to combine everything we've created so far, the commercial script, character descriptions, headphone reference, locations, and the visual storyboard, into one detailed prompt for Google Flow. The idea is to give agent mode the full context of the project instead of explaining every shot separately. At this point, all the creative planning is done. We have the story, the visuals, the references, and the shot structure. Now that all our images are ready, it's time to bring everything into Google Flow. I open Flow, create a new project, and go straight to the characters section. Here, I add the two characters we've already created, our young man and his boss. This is important because these characters appear across multiple shots, and adding them as flow characters gives the agent a consistent visual reference for their appearance, clothing, and overall identity. Next, I add the headphone reference. Since the headphones are the product we're actually selling, I want Flow to understand exactly what they look like and keep their design consistent throughout the commercial. I also upload the visual storyboard and location references. These give agent mode the visual blueprint for the shots and the environments where the story takes place. With all the assets ready, I paste in the master prompt we created in ChatGPT. It already contains the complete story, storyboard, character descriptions, product details, locations, and shot instructions, so I don't need to manually write a separate prompt for every shot. Now comes the important part, tagging the references. Wherever the master prompt mentions a character, the headphones, the storyboard, or a location, I use the @ symbol to attach the exact asset we've uploaded. This tells Flow exactly which reference I'm talking about instead of leaving it to guess. I take a few seconds to make sure everything is tagged correctly, turn on agent mode, and submit the prompt. And now we get to the part I've been building this entire workflow for. Instead of generating every shot myself, I'm giving Flow the storyboard, the references, and one complete set of instructions, and letting agent mode work through the commercial for me. Let's see what it comes up with. Of course, the first generations aren't going to be perfect. Some shots might have awkward movement, inconsistent details, or a camera angle that doesn't quite match the storyboard. When that happens, I don't try to force a bad generation into the final edit. I simply regenerate the scene and look for a better variation. For bigger changes, I can reuse the original prompt and generate a new version. For smaller adjustments, I can make the change directly from the video edit page. The goal isn't to make every generation perfect on the first try. It's to generate enough good variations that I can choose the strongest version of each scene when I start editing. Once I have the shots I'm happy with, it's time to bring everything into the edit. At this stage, I'm not worrying about music or sound effects yet. I'm focused on the story, putting the shots in the right order, trimming the weaker parts, and making sure the pacing feels natural. Now that the visual edit is locked, it's time to bring the commercial to life with sound. I want the audio to support the story without taking attention away from the product. So I'll start with a music track that matches the energy of the commercial, then add only the sound effects that actually help sell each moment. The morning rush can have subtle environmental sounds, while the bus ride and street scenes can build the energy. Then, when the boss confronts him, I can pull the music back slightly to make the moment feel more tense. And when the boss puts on the headphones and suddenly starts vibing, the music can hit properly. That contrast is what makes the final gag work. I'll keep the sound design clean and intentional, because the headphones should remain the hero of the commercial. Once the music, effects, and dialogue are balanced, we're ready for the final result. After making the final adjustments, the commercial is finally finished. And looking back at the process, the biggest difference wasn't just the AI video generation. It was everything we prepared before generating a single shot. The script, the character references, the product reference, the locations, and especially the storyboard. Instead of spending hours writing prompts for every individual scene, I gave Google Flow one complete visual blueprint and let agent mode handle the generation. It's not a perfect workflow, and some generations still need refinement. But this experiment showed me how much more powerful AI filmmaking becomes when you give the model the right context from the beginning. And that's the workflow I'll definitely be experimenting with again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.